How many times have you left yourself in that really awkward place? Yes, it's the 50-60 yard shot. It's the in-between shot. Tricky distance, it's not quite a full shot, it's not quite a chip shot. Or it might be a par 5 and you've absolutely blasted 2 shots up there or 3 shots. You're close to the green and you want to get it close to convert it for that par or birdie. How do we play this shot? Because it presents quite a lot of fear to a lot of people, because that in-between swing is a swing that a lot of people don't trust. This shot requires something quite different. This shot requires feel, it requires controlling the speed of the swing, controlling the loft and controlling the low point, because it's the low point that's really putting the fear of God into everybody. It's that low point that's moving back and forth, and that lack of awareness for how we are influencing that low point that really creates that anxiety, that performance anxiety that we're already feeling as we approach the shot. You may not have that same level of anxiety over the full swings because you're doing it so often and you're getting a strike on the ball, and it's just confidence through the experience of those positive outcomes. Essentially, what's at the heart of this is experiential learning. We have to experience what it's like to hit the ball heavy, to hit the ball thin, to hit the ball on the top. We've got to know what those swings feel like, and we've also got to know what it feels like to get that perfect strike, that perfect ball turf contact. The body recognises what not to do as well as what to do. So for this example here, we've got a 50-yard shot, pins at the back, so we've got a bit of green to work with. First and foremost, strike is king for this shot, because strike is going to give us not only the distance, but it's also going to give us, it's going to get the ball airborne, and it's going to give us the spin. So how do we get a strike? First and foremost, I would recommend low point control, because if we can sense where that low point is and how we're influencing that, we can more often than not get that ball turf contact and develop some confidence getting the strike. And once we've got confidence with the strike, once we've got that confidence, we might be a bit more ambitious and start to try and take these shots on, be a bit more creative, express ourselves a bit more freely, because we're not unsure about that strike. If this was a pendulum, the low point is at the bottom, but the butt end, for that to happen, isn't moving. It's not moving side to side, forward or back, it's just maintaining a fixed position. And this is a pendulum. Now the golf swing's not really a pendulum, but as soon as we start to move this, once this butt end translates a lot, this low point's really starting to move. Okay, now obviously this handle goes up and down, side to side, so you can appreciate there's a lot going on and it's moving side to side. Now it's going to have to go up and down, we're swinging, but for this kind of shot, what we can minimise is the amount of side to side movement we're making with the handle, particularly the butt. So the butt end of the club doesn't need to move that much. Can you see here, I can swing the club back quite a long way, the butt's still here. So we know if we keep the butt here, it's going to bottom out here. If the butt were to move further forward, now we've essentially shifted the low point further forward of the ball, so we're almost guaranteeing, when we let that go, a ball turf contact. The more I take this butt end over here, the more I've got to do to bring the club back and release it to get that low point control. And all the time this is happening, the club's swinging, and now there's loft added to the face. The back edge of the sole is coming down, and this might be happening early. This could bounce on the floor, thin the ball. If I do manage to make contact, it might just pop up, and you might find that these 50-60 yard shots don't go far enough. What we need to do in this instance is we really need to attune ourselves a lot more acutely to this. We need to develop that awareness, and for that we need to have our attention in the right place. So I need to be aware of how this is travelling. What's it like for a club to travel in just a linear fashion? What's it like for it to travel in just more of an angular fashion? Now, neither of these two are particularly functional for the shot we want to play, but a combination of the two starts to create more momentum, and the timing of when we use these two is going to influence where that low point is. For this kind of shot, where we want to guarantee strike, we don't need too much linear. More angular might help. But just to swing the club, there's going to be some linear element to it. But what we're doing, we're just letting the club travel freely in space. Essentially, it's just not going in that direction too much. It's going that direction more. Now, once we're here, we can let this thing shift. We can let this travel. And now you can see how this is all set up for a steeper angle of attack, sweet spot coming down, using the bounce correctly, i.e. leading edge cutting in, club travelling smoothly through the ground and ensuring that strike. What we've got to commit to is this release. So the butt travels forward and then the club releases. To help feel this, I'm just going to use one hand, the trail hand, so that's my right hand. And now I can get a sense of what I'm doing with this handle and essentially how the club head reacts to this. So we're getting a sense of cause and effect. So how are we moving the golf club and what the effect is of where we're striking. If I let this handle travel more this way and then let the club go, look where the strike is. It's much later. If this goes early, so that's going seriously angular very early. In fact, you can see the butt's actually starting to travel back away from the target. It is going to do this in a golf shot. The butt end of the golf club is going to move away, point away from where you're going. So we don't need to keep driving this forward. We've got to let this go, because by letting this come back towards us, away from the target, it lets the club head go that way. But what we've got to ensure is that this is happening at a time where the low point is going to be in front of the golf ball. Then we can let this go as freely as we like. So it's not going to make a difference here. It's only if I do this early. To move this golf club in this fashion, so we're moving the low point forward, the body has to move. So now you're starting to recognise the effect it has on your body movement, because there's got to be a shift. There's got to be a bit of weight shift. There's a transfer of weight with the body weight. You'll really feel this just one-handed. Instinctively, you're probably not gonna grip it firm with a rigid arm and do this. You're probably just gonna use the wrist, because naturally we're hardwired for economy of movement. A lot of us like sitting a lot on a sofa, okay, rather than doing a marathon, because we're creatures of comfort. Path of least resistance. It's in all walks of life, it's in all parts of our life. Movement wise, we are looking for the most efficient, economical movement possible. So why move the whole arm to swing a club when you can just move the wrist and the forearm and the elbow and let the shoulder rotate a little bit? So feeling that pendulum, and then feel how you can shift that pendulum forward. So now there's a flail. The club's actually lagging behind. There's a flail to the system here, look. You can hit steeper, you can hit shallower. You can start to feel the timing of the release. But notice where I entered the grass there, look, it's the same place, because the handle is in front. And I can release this now and let that club go. So we've got a powerfully timed release. You can use a TheraBand or a towel. Okay, probably we'll use a towel, to be honest, because everyone's got one of those on the bag. Take the towel, palms facing the sky, shoulder width apart, create some tension on the towel, elbows by the side of the rib cage, and just rotate. I'm not going side to side like this. There's a rotation. Just keeping the tension on the towel, having the elbows back and flexed, isolating that spine rotation. So you're really feeling what it's like just to rotate the torso and the pelvis, and feel the weight shift through the feet to help create this. There's a pressure shift through the feet to help drive this torso rotation. If you're going to throw a ball a short distance, you're probably not going to make a big movement when it's not necessary, because you want control and economy of movement. We can also use something like the GRF, so we can start to feel the weight shift with it. And you start to see how much the legs actually move. A lot of lower body movement, which is shifting pressure and allowing us to control and move our body weight. With that in mind, we then pick the club up and just use a one-handed swing with that rotation. And just let the golf club now just release, ideally, after the ball. Recognising where the swing, and in this instance, the release pattern, takes you to. Where does that release take you to? And is that matching your intention? If you're finishing like this, but trying to hit it up there, there's a big mismatch there between what I'm trying to do, i.e. hit the ball high, and what I'm actually doing. So that feel and real element, are completely mismatched. So that's a high shot. That's a low shot. So you can see the timing of this release is different. The low shot, this is probably going to be even further forward and releasing later, as opposed to still letting the butt end travel forward, but now letting this go earlier. Now there's more loft. And that's the high shot, and that's the low shot. You can even use your golf club just to get a sense of that rotation. In the actual swing, your arms are going to be free moving, the shoulders are going to be moving, and we're going to let them move. We're not trying to stay rigid. All we're doing here is just using this exercise just to recognise how we're rotating through the torso, the pelvis, and how the legs facilitate this. And then we can actually let the arms just freewheel. And we've got a sense for what the arms are doing with the club. So your shoulders are free to move, the elbows, the wrists, everything's free to move and react to the body movement that's really at the heart of this speed generation. So the strike, just what I wanted, the body weight shift, that's a result of the pressure shift through the feet that's pushing, there's a pushing going on. You're going to feel that naturally when you do this exercise. You can stand a bit closed, a bit open, square, however you like really, but kind of how would you stand side on to throw the ball? Get into a comfortable position, ball in the middle, grip it a bit lower if you like, just to get a bit more control, and let that club swing. Get in. Oof. So I'm obviously really happy with that. Same divot again. You could see the briskness to the swing. We're not doing this slowly. This is accelerating. This is committed to a finish, but we've got to know where that finish is, and that's why it's important that you know where the finish is, so you can commit to the finish, because we can feel it with one hand. When we put the other hand on, we've got the same sensation. Ensuring the strike, the commitment, being positive, these are all good traits to have in any part of your game, but particularly this pitching area here, that in-between distance, that 40, 50, 60 yard shot, where we can get a little bit nervy, legs get a bit wobbly, because we've been mentally scarred in the past, of course, but we can flip that on its head. We can completely reframe this by actually having confidence in how we're moving and recognising how we're moving and letting this thing freewheel, which is a product of confidence, of course, but knowing where you're going with your movement and ultimately with your shot. What we're doing is we're shifting that pendulum in space and we're using it to swing the club freely and control that low point and get that strike, play that shot with confidence, so this distance never bothers you again.